Your soul closer than your heartbeat. Ooh, give a little lift to your soul. Call out to heaven. Give a little lift to your soul. God will surely meet you. Give a little lift to your soul. You have been given. Give a little lift to your soul. You need to give a little lift to your soul. Give a little lift, give a little lift, give a little lift, give a little lift, give a little time, give a little love, give a little lift to your soul. Give a little lift to your soul. God is within you. Give a little lift to your soul, closer than your heartbeat. Ooh, give a little lift to your soul. Call out to heaven. Give a little lift to your soul. God will surely meet you. Give a little lift to your soul. You have been given. Give a little lift to your soul. Good morning and welcome to Unity of Walnut Creek. So, ready to start our service? Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing, I Trust in God. I surrender. I am one in the spirit all around.
Good morning. Oh, that was rough, so weak. Let's try that again. Good morning. I love you guys.
We love you, Linda.
Thank you, David. My name is Linda Stevens, and it's my joy and honor to be a part of your service this morning. I feel like I'm reverberating. Do you guys hear that? No, thanks, Zelda. Oh, how much fun. Now, all those teddy bears, I see you're holding them. What I want you to do is give them love and pass them on. Okay, pass them on all during the service. Make sure that they are totally loved up for the children that are going to be getting them. And you can play with them, too, a little bit during service. Okay, all right, settle down. That was the wrong way to get started. All right. Thank you to our musicians this morning, Lisa and Juliet, that were up here. And we are pleased that Ronnie Ong is our guest musician. Yes. And she's accompanied by Ed Salvador, and of course our wonderful band, Tyler, Dusty, and Dan. We appreciate you guys so much. Let's take a moment and turn to our friends at home, because we know you're there, we feel your love. We're sorry you're not with us, but we're glad you're there and with us in that way. Thank you so much. Now, I encourage you to turn off your cell phones so that we can enjoy this sacred time together. Unity is a positive place for spiritual living. At Unity of Walnut Creek, we have a mission, and that mission is, in a loving community, we empower spiritual growth by modeling and teaching universal spiritual principles. And we have a statement of faith that we say each week together. So I'm going to encourage you to go inside to that special place that only you can tap into. Take a deep breath and affirm with me, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Now take one more deep breath. And again, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Now, if the ushers would please come forward, we're going to take a minute to tell our newcomers that we're glad that they're here with us today. So if you are new, please raise your hand. Or if you were here before and you didn't raise your hand, you can raise it now. And our ushers will come by with a packet of information about Unity. And we encourage you to take that packet. There's a card inside of it, a connection card. And if you take it to our bookstore, we have a special gift for you. And if you didn't raise your hand, you can still go to the bookstore and get one of the packets. We're just really glad you're here. Now, for everyone else, there's a connection card in the seat pocket in front of you, and would ask that you fill that out. Let us know that you're here today. If you have any questions or any concerns or any feedback, it's a great place, or a prayer request. Please use that card for that purpose. The time now is to greet your neighbors. So stand up and tell those around you good morning.
Good morning.
Today is birthday Sunday. Woo. If your birthday is in December, please stand so we can celebrate. Woo. On to announcements. Reverend Sheila Gautreaux will be here on Saturday, December 29th, to facilitate the Power of Radical Forgiveness workshop. This workshop will help you enter the new year free of what may be holding you in the bondage of unforgiveness. Today is the last day, guys, to save $25 by registering in the bookstore. Take advantage of the early bird discount. The Children's Christmas Eve Choir practice starts this Wednesday. If you have a child or children that would like to participate, please contact Mirabai Bangs with the information in your bulletin. The Christmas luncheon for families in a shelter has been postponed. We're looking for restaurants to donate the food, so we will let you know when it is rescheduled. Bring your family and friends caroling at Kensington Retirement Home this Thursday, next Thursday, December 19th at 6 p.m. 13th, my bad. There it is. Don't listen to me. December 13th, 6 p.m. Help us bring the joy of the season to folks living there as we share our favorite Christmas songs. All are welcome, and see Lisa and Tyler, those people, those weirdos, for more information.
You should probably clarify.
Those are my parents, by the way, in case you didn't know. And if you would like to give handmade gifts for the holidays, plan to attend our holiday arts and crafts fair on Sunday, December 16th. It's up there as well. If you are an artist or create crafts, then you can reserve a booth to sell your handmade items by contacting Louise DeLue. It's right there. Everybody see Louise? All right. Yes. And please check in your bulletin or online for more detailed information on these and other events. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. And extra special thanks to Zoe, because you're going to see a whole lot of YOUers in here. At the end of the service, they had their overnight dinner dance last night, so she didn't get too much sleep, but she did a great job anyway, didn't she? So this is the beginning of Advent, as you may know. We're beginning with the first Sunday of Advent, which is faith. This also happens to be the first day of Hanukkah. So all the religions of bringing in the light at this time of year, particularly the Jewish religion of Hanukkah and our base in Unity and Advent. So I want to invite forward Louise and David DeLue to share with us our Advent reading and candle lighting to begin us off. And they happen to be Jewish, so they're holding both the Unitic piece and the Jewish piece. Thank you.
Okay. My faith is more than a passive state of being. It is the active energy that empowers my thoughts and brings them into manifestation in this human experience.
I am always expressing faith in something, either spiritual truth or dualistic illusion. I'm grateful for the growing awareness that allows me to recognize where I am placing my faith and to make conscious, creative choices through each day. If I find myself giving my faith to thoughts of lack or limitation, I shift my focus to the spiritual substance that can accomplish all things through me. It is by embracing this understanding of faith that I create a new consciousness, choice by choice.
But ask in faith, never doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. That's from James 1:6. Now we light the Advent candle of faith. And then you're going to say,
Chag Sameach.
that's Happy Hanukkah.
I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith, I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith. When I trust and I let go, I know all is well. When I trust and I let go, I know all is well. I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith, I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith.
And so we rest in the knowing in our hearts that is faith. Wherever we are on the continuum of faith, in this moment, in a place of strength and knowing, fortitude, absolute confidence, or perhaps in a place of instability or uncertainty. We welcome our whole being into the power of faith today. And whatever practical things may be up in our lives, challenges or opportunities, we have this faith, this knowing that no matter what is before us, a presence is within us that steadies our way, in fact, makes our way easy and successful, abundant. On the path of faith, there is health and wholeness, harmony in our relationships, and a depth of connection with our source and all of life. We not only have faith and pray faith, we are faith. We are the embodied essence of faith. And as we put our attention on it today, we call it forward. Let's rest with the presence of Spirit, feeling and knowing that solid foundation of relationship, the wholeness of God right here, right now, available to us. And so we breathe in the knowing of our faith and breathe out the action of our faith as we rest in the silence with our God. words and our actions spring forth from the mighty faith that moves through us. As we place our attention on this power within us, we activate it, awaken it, and allow our lives to rest upon it. And so we thank you, Spirit, for the faith that moves mountains through us and as us. And so it is.
When I trust and I let go, I know all is well. I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith, I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith.
When I'm down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and stay a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. There is no life without its hunger. Each restless heart beats so imperfectly. But when you come and I am filled with wonder, sometimes I think I glimpse eternity. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong
Some songs get that collective sigh. Did you all hear that? Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The whole music team. Wow. You guys just knock it out of the park. Beautiful. I was watching Dan over there on the drums, so smooth. And I was like, you guys are such pros. We have such talent here. I just really, really appreciate it. So I also heard that we have talented bears in the house that decorated yesterday. And, you know, today is faith. Anything is possible. So I believe that it's possible the bears did it. I think probably this guy was in charge. And but I do think there might have been some human elves too, and so if you were a part of that, would you please stand so we can recognize you? Annie was our chief elf, and she's gone now, so maybe most of the folks were from the 9:30. Ah, okay, well, great. I acknowledge you in the 11:30, and they were at the 9:30. We're all one anyway, right? So faith. That's our first Sunday of Advent as you've gathered. I remember the first time that I gave a talk on faith, and I really was completely tongue-tied with the idea of coming up with anything. And the reason, I guess, is because it's just one of those things that's so, like, privately woven into our beings, you know? It's something that's just kind of deep within us, that sort of knowing. And so to break it apart and to begin to talk about it was a bit of a challenge. Now I've done a lot of talks on faith, and I found ways to break it apart and talk about it. But that essence, you know, I think about when I was a young girl, and my sister was making fun of me because I wanted to go to church, and my sisters were older, and she said, "Why do you want to go to church? I mean, who wants to go to church? How boring." And I was so surprised at the veracity with which this came out of me, and I said, "Because I have faith in God, okay?" And it just sort of hung in the air, and the whole family was kind of like, whoa, okay, everybody get ready for church. And it's not necessarily that church fed me so much, but it did feed my faith. And I'm so grateful for that. I never say I'm in a recovering Lutheran, because I don't, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for that start that I got, that foundation that I had, that spoke to that faith, that has been the walk, that has changed many times over, as I bet you can attest to as well. But what is this faith? You know, part of the reason why I think initially it was hard for me to talk about it is because it's based in this like deep kind of mystery. You know, it goes back to the source, the creator, that kind of energy. When we tap our faith, it's way down deep, and it's the essence of life, really. It's that knowing, that belief that all of life comes from this seed that is pure spirit. And so to just know that, without necessarily proof, faith always gets cast out, and then science sort of catches up and proves, and it's our work as spiritual beings to keep casting the faith. So, people might think you sound a little off when you say things like bears decorated the sanctuary, but I'm telling you, anything is possible. And so it's this kind of science and faith that helps us sometimes when we listen to the fusion of that helps us touch a bit of that mystery when those 2 points come together. Shayla Wright tells this story from the 50s when she was in 5th grade. And she came home after science class, and she was just on fire with what she had learned. 5th graders often get on fire with what they've learned, which is an exciting age, as some of you school teachers can attest to. I can't see Chris, but I know she would agree, Chris Gomes. Anyway, so Shayla comes home, and she tells her mom that she's learned something really incredible in science. And her mom says, So what did you learn? And she says, she reminds us this was in the 50s, way before quantum physics. And she says, well, Mom, when you look at a chair or anything that's solid, it's not really solid. And her mom's kind of intrigued. It's not really how you think it is. And her mom says, what do you mean? And she said, well, it's just how it looks, but in actuality, it's made up of all these little particles called molecules and atoms, and they're zooming around and bumping into each other. And her mother looks very intrigued and stunned and says, "Are you sure that's what your teacher said?" And Shayla says, "Yes." And so Mom says, "And what are those little zooming things? What are they made of?" And she said, "I saved the best part for last. Those molecules and those atoms, they're just made of space." And she said her mother, the rest of the afternoon, the two of them together really walked around touching solid things with a look of curiosity and deep bewilderment. That everything that appears to be solid could be made of that space that we would call spirit. And she said it was as if in that afternoon time stood still, and my mother and I looked across a deep abyss in which our minds couldn't quite launch into the great mystery of being. That's where faith begins. It's in that kind of awe. It's in that kind of things that we can actually touch, but really there is a greater depth there, a mystery there. Our work of faith is really to pull the thread of that mystery into the mundane. To take that feeling that we have when we recognize that something isn't quite as it appears, but that there is something deeper going on inside of all material things, including us. We often think this is the end of us, right? The borders of this body. But we know in truth that there is just a permeating spirit. And so when we're reminded of that, our faith gets reactivated, that there is more going on here than meets the eye. And we can use that in everything that comes up in our lives. In fact, just use that very statement, somebody gets diagnosed with something. There is more going on here than meets the eye. As Linda just leaned over and told me about something going on in her life, she said, "I know there's a pony in here somewhere." And so if we just keep phrasing it that way, we begin to allow ourselves to pull the mystery in to the mundane, to live from that place, that knowing, that faith-filled knowing that says everything is actually okay. In fact, it's more than okay. There are blessings abounding. There are miracles available. And all I have to do is open, like Shayla Wright's mother did, and just walk over and touch something solid and think about the fact that it's made of spirit. It's made of space, little particles zooming around and bumping into each other and co-creating. And that's what happens when our faith comes alive through us and we act it and we speak it and we co-create it, is that the little particles of knowing, the thoughts and the words and the feelings that we have that begin to align with spirit begin to bump up against one another, and they form and co-create in the world. Whatever it is that we want to spring forth out of our faith. We can create the other direction too, right? Our faith can be we can believe in our fear-based ideas. We can kind of come from that place and create from that place. Charles Filmer, our co-founder, wrote many articles that became books and a couple of books that he wrote from start to finish. I think his best title of all, my favorite, is Atom-Smashing Power of Mind. And he wrote it actually was a series of articles written from the late 1800s until close to his death in 1948. And the atomic age began in the 40s, and so many were looking to him as a spiritual leader to see what would he say about that when the first atomic bomb was dropped. What would he have to say about the atomic age? And what did he say was exactly what we would say today, that the directed power of human thought is far more powerful than we ever give it credit for. And we can innovate with this genius. We can create all kinds of things, but will we use it for destruction or for creation? It's always our choice. Will we use it for good or for evil? It's always our choice. And we will keep on with the brilliance of divine intelligence, creating amazing things in the world. And will we use it for good energy, for positive energy, or will we use it to blow each other up? It's always our choice. So where do we put our faith? Where do we pull that mysterious thread of source into our lives? And how do we use it? Where do we apply the knowing that we have? Charles Fillmore didn't often tell stories about himself and his own journey, but he does actually devote a chunk of the chapter on faith in Atom Smashing Power of Mind to his own faith healing journey. And we often hear about his wife, Myrtle Fillmore, and her healing, which really spawned our whole movement. Charles was a skeptic. He was the kind of wait and see, like let's read about, is this really, is this scientific, is this, believable? And as he saw how through faith healing, basically Myrtle healed her own body, he began to apply the same teachings, and this is his healing story. When I was a boy of 10, he said, I was taken with what was first diagnosed as rheumatism and later developed into a serious case of hip disease. I was in bed for over a year, he said, and from that point I was an invalid for the next 25 years, or until I began the application of divine law. 2 very large tubercular abscesses developed at the head of my hip bone, while the doctors said it would finally drain away my life. But I managed to get on about with crutches and a 4-inch cork and steel extension on my right leg. The hip bone was out of the socket and stiff. The leg shriveled and ceased to grow. The whole right side became involved. I lost hearing in my right ear. My right eye was weak. From the hip to the knee, the flesh was a glassy adhesion and had little sensation. But when I began to apply, he says, the spiritual treatment, there was for a long time just a slight response in the leg, and I began to feel better. I found that I could begin to hear again with my right ear. And then gradually that I noticed that there was more feeling in my leg. And then as the years went by, the ossified joint began to get limber. And the shrunken flesh filled out until the right leg was almost equal to the left. Then I discarded the cork and steel extension and wore an ordinary shoe with a double heel about 1 inch high. Now the leg was about as large as the other. The muscles were restored, and although the hip bone was not yet in the socket, I'm quite certain that it soon will be, and that I shall be made perfectly whole. I'm giving the minute details of my healing because it would be considered a medical impossibility and a miracle from a religious standpoint. However, I have watched the restoration year after year as I applied the power of thought, and I know it is under divine law. So I'm satisfied now that there is proof of a law that mind builds the body and can restore it. That's why Unity exists today, because 2 people had unshakable faith in the Spirit and the possibilities that could be created from the Spirit. 2 people worked the principles themselves until they saw success and they could share from that place. If you ever get the opportunity to go to Unity Village, or specifically the 9th and Tracy, the original church in Kansas City, do go there, because you can feel the presence of Myrtle Fillmore in that office where people are known to have showed up and hung their crutches and their canes outside the office and walked out without them because they didn't need them anymore. That's the stock we come from. That's why we have this movement all over the world today, because it was based on faith and commitment to Spirit, that they would stay aligned to that Spirit, and abundance would flow in to support all the work that they imagined doing, the healing work. At the time, they didn't imagine churches or credentialed leaders or ministers, but that grew out of the demand for the movement as the movement swelled. And why did it swell so much? Because it came down to that very essence, that source that we come from, that place of wonderment and awe when we say, there's something more inside here and inside here and inside you and inside this life, that there's something that we could tap. And when we tap that power, our faith gets activated. And when our faith gets activated, anything is possible. Really, anything, probable even. So it's that knowing those moments when we come to that, knowing that, and then realizing that it's practice that brings it out. You know, years of practice on Myrtle and Charles's work, years of affirmative prayer and meditation that allowed them to heal their bodies completely, and that allowed them to attract all the abundance that they needed to build an amazing movement. So whatever it is that we're up to in our lives, we think are impossible mountains sometimes, you know, and what does Jesus say? But all we need is a faith of a mustard seed, you know, just a little tiny particle of reminder of the foundation on which we stand, the essence of which we're made. And it is through that remembering that we can bring it forth. And we remember by practicing. Do you remember the man, it's in Mark 9:24, who he's bringing his son to Jesus to be healed. And he says, you know, he's tried everything. He's been everywhere, as, you know, a lot of people today and then had been. And he's kind of on that last piece of hope. And he says, can you heal my son? Will you heal him if you're able? And Jesus says, you know, if I'm able. Because Jesus is standing in that place of pure faith. The difference between Jesus and us is he never forgot who he was. He just never forgot. He didn't fall off and, you know, remember and forget, remember and forget. He stayed in the divine alignment. He stayed in that place of pulling that mysterious thread of source into life, practicing it, living it, speaking it, knowing it, and not forgetting. And so there he's faced with this person who's embodied in that total divinity, gets it completely, aligned, human and divine, completely aligned. And so in the presence of that, when we are in the presence of spirit, when we're in presence of those ahas, like Shayla Wright's mother, when we're in those moments where we get it, it's like, oh yeah, right? When we're in those moments, it's just like, oh, I completely get it. I'm aligned with it. I feel the power. You know, we'll say often, I've got God goosebumps. You share that with someone else, and two people or more feel it. You know, there I am in the midst of you. So, the man is standing there waiting. And after Jesus says, if I'm able, and he, like, from that place of, you know, when we get it, when we recognize who we are, when we touch the presence, you know, when in those moments, it's humbling what we've been given, the gifts that we've been given as divine beings. And it's like one of those humbling moments and these passionate pleas. And the man says, I believe, help my unbelief. Gosh, I can't tell you how many times I've said that scripture, and every time it gets me. And it gets me because it's like that humility of the power and the presence of all that we are and all that we've been given. We are faith. We pray faith. We are the essence of faith. We can be faith. We can create the world that works for all. We can harmonize everything. We can heal anything with the love and the power of our faith. The possibilities are endless, and Jesus is standing before this man knowing that, embodying that knowing, and he's standing there, and I so want to be there too, he's saying, you know? I want to get the whole thing, so illuminate the darkness of my mind, illuminate the dark corners of my heart, the places where I'm not sure, the places where I don't believe. Help me with my unbelief so that I can know and stand in the fullness that you are standing in before me, and the assurance and the faith and the knowing that my son will be healed. And so I just feel that prayer, you know, for all of us, that we're all kind of crying out in a way, help our unbelief, you know, our collective unbelief in the world and our individual unbelief and the unbelief in our relationships that feel broken or confused or where we're not communicating and connecting, yet we know there is that base of love there, or that our bodies feel like we're struggling and, like we say, fighting or battling things. And it's like the fight and the battle isn't what's going to help it. It's the surrender. It's the surrender into the truth, the base, the foundation of faith. That's what will heal us. It's the thread pulled into the mundane life. And then every day we're walking it and we're thinking it and we're speaking it and we're knowing it. And then before you know it, we're like that way shower Jesus. We are embodying it fully. And so that deep, deep desire, I think, is why that scripture always makes me feel emotional, because I can align with that deep, deep desire to have all those little places of unbelief or lack or limitation illumined, you know? And that's the practice of faith. That's the practice that Charles Fillmore and Myrtle Fillmore used to heal their bodies and to launch a movement. It was this simple practice of paying attention to how we think and how we speak and lining ourselves up instead of those limited ways into the abundant way that is that source, that is that space of spirit in which everything springs forth. So what we really are about in our practice is unbounding our, there's a binding of our faith, and it's all bound up in the places where we think there's not enough, or the places where we think we're not enough. And so it's an opening up and allowing that which we thought was missing, that which we thought was lacking, that which we thought was not enough, and opening to the truth that there is plenty, and that we are plenty, and that we are enough, and that we're made of this source, and that we have all the faith we could ever need. It's just bound up and hidden from us by these thoughts of lack and limitation that we're feeding it. And so our practice can begin as simple as paying attention to like the music you listen to, and the movies you watch, and the videos you're watching, and the things that you're filling your mind with. And notice as you're taking it in, how do I feel? I really try to do this when I take in the news. How do I feel? And then there's a point when it's like, okay, done, you know what I mean? Hopefully I get it before it's like way up here. And time for some uplifting music, And then pay attention to the music. How do you feel? Does it move you? Does it uplift you? Does it align you with the divine? Is it like the song that we just heard, I have faith, I am faith, I pray faith. It reminds us over and over again of the truth. We've got a treasure trove of new thought music that will continue to align us with the divine. And so paying attention to those kinds of things. I've got a really mundane example for you, but hopefully you'll remember it next time you're shampooing your hair. You know how the shampoo bottles has instructions? Lather, rinse, repeat. I've always found the repeat part kind of interesting, but when I apply it to this, it'll make more sense. And so as we, follow that, it's like the lathering is like the truth, right? So how do I speak to myself? What is the self-talk that is going through my mind? What's the loop that's going through my mind? Is it a worry loop? Is it a, if this happens and that happens, and then, oh boy, we're in trouble? And so if this happens and that, and then we do the loop. Do anybody do that? Is that just me? Yeah. Then while you're laying awake at night, you can loop through that. Or you could instead like lather up with truth. Just think of all the fantastic things you can think of who you are and what's going on in your life, and how grateful you are, and what's the truth of who you are. I am faith. I have the power of faith within me. I'm resting in the divine mystery right now while I wash my hair. And so we just kind of lather up all that truth, that affirmative truth, and then, of course, we rinse away that which doesn't work. We rinse away the lack and the limitation. And then we repeat. See? It does make sense now. And I tell you these silly, kind of metaphors because my hope is that next time you're shampooing your hair, you're doing this and you're thinking about this. And then what do we do after we shampoo and we rinse? Some of us use conditioner, right? That's where we really get, so we're conditioning our minds to align. We're conditioning our minds to faith. We're conditioning our minds to that deep, beautiful mystery of the source that created us. And when we do that over and over again, then we live it and we think it and we move and our whole being is in it. We don't even have room anymore for that place of lack. I remember when I was originally told people in Missouri we were moving to California, and people in my former congregation would say, oh, do you know what the cost of living is out there? And at first I was like, luckily I had been thinking about this ahead of time because I did go through a little bit of how were we going to make it work. But by then I was so aligned with the move and the faith of the move that it didn't even faze me. And so when she said that, I said, oh, that's none of my business. And she was, But that's where I was at that point, you know? So we keep doing our spiritual work, and then we move through those places where we're in freak out mode or not enough mode, or, you know, batten the hatches and circle the wagons because, you know, the sky's falling. And then we realize, that's not really happening, is it? And it's not really helpful to think that's happening, is it? Because the more we think about that and feel into that, the more we create that. The atomic bomb comes along and we can, you know, do good with it or do destruction with it. Really at the most powerful levels, right, of complete annihilation. And so it's true of all the things kind of that step toward those kinds of creations in our everyday life. We may think it's mundane in comparison, but it's the mundane that really pulls in the mystery. So next time we open our door, we can think about the space, the source from which it comes. We can enter that kind of mystery, that kind of place where the realm of the mind has to cross back over into the source. And what is on the other side of that door in Revelation 3:20? It says, "Listen, I stand at the door and knock. And if you will let me in, I will eat with you and you with me." And it's like the knock is coming from the inside of our hearts. You know, it's the spirit inside of us that going, "Can you hear me? I'm here. Listen, I'm here. Everything is more than okay. Everything is divine. There are all kinds of possibilities in your life that I want to uplift you to, that I want to show you, that I want to lead you into, but you keep thinking those loops of lack and limitation, and they keep you out of the abundant divine alignment that is yours." And so all we got to do is open the door. All we got to do is drop in, and there we are feasting on spiritual truth. There we are communing with the divine of our being, and we're reminded of the essence of who we are, why we've come, who we are, what is possible. And when we feast on that, then, when we take the time to practice and feast on that truth, then we just go out into the world and we share it. We live it, we walk it. I make that part sound so easy, don't I? Just leap right into that. And it is, if we remain true to our practice. It becomes easier and easier the more practiced we are. So listen, I'm standing at the door knocking, and if you hear my voice, open the door, and I will come into you, and I will eat with you, and you with me. It's a constant invitation available to us. All we got to do is answer the door and listen, right? All we got to do is open the door and begin to drop in and to practice, and we will be told and shown everything we could ever need to know at the very moment that we need to know it. As a friend of mine said, we always pray for guidance, wishing for revelation, but it doesn't really work that way. Because if we got the full enchilada, we might go the other direction, you know? So Spirit gives it to us in the pieces and the steps that we can see, you know, as much as we will take and move into. There's a wisdom to that is at work in this mystery. So what do you want to be your Christmas miracle this year? I mean, dream big. What would you really want for your Christmas miracle? In fact, take a moment just to drop in and see what comes to you in this field that we've created. If you could have anything in the world for yourself, for your family, for the world, it doesn't matter. There are no bounds. And as you hold that desire, that intention, that Christmas miracle, you begin to think it and to breathe it and to feel it and to move your being into its realization, into its fullness, into seeing it everywhere around you, into feeling it from within you. And that's how we co-create. And then you can link that mystery of your intention and your desire into mundane life. And you can, you know, as you're cooking and as you're gardening and as you're shampooing and as you're whatever you're doing in day-to-day life, every time you open your door, you think, listen, behold, I stand at the door and knock. Let me in. Let me feast with you. Let me give you the spiritual truth. Let me remind you of the truth of this Christmas miracle that you've called a miracle is not a miracle at all. It's an easy possibility. It can easily be achieved. Just keep your mind on it. Keep your thoughts on it. Keep doing your spiritual practice as the Fillmores would have taught us had they been here, and they have taught us through their teachings and our lineage over and over again. So let's unwrap this truth this Christmas through the faithful practice, the faithful spiritual, or faithfulness to our spiritual practices. And we do that by surrendering our unbelief, by opening the door, by listening, by allowing, and by pulling those little threads of mystery as we come upon them into our mundane life and living from that place. Let's unbind our faith and let the miracles abound. And let's affirm this together as we close out. I unbind my faith through spiritual practice. Miracles abound. And so it is.
I think I've forgotten who I am. Anybody out there with me? So I'll commit this week to opening the door. Will you commit to that with me? Because miracles abound. I needed this today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our prayer chaplains are available after the service to provide personal prayer support. If you're a prayer chaplain today, would you please stand? They're wearing the lavender stoles. So if you find a need for a joy or a concern in your life, please seek out one of our prayer chaplains after the service. Now our time is for our prosperity celebration. We know in truth there is no lack and there is no limitation. Because abundance, we came into this world, and that is already our true nature. For your convenience, there are many ways that you can give to Unity of Walnut Creek. For credit card donations, push pay on your smartphone, or take the envelope in the seat pocket in front of you. And for those of you at home, we don't forget about you either. You can use the donate button on the Watch Live page, or also use push pay. And thank you for participating in our abundance as well. Now is the time for our blessing together for our abundance. I encourage you to take your tithes and your love offering in your hand and affirm with me. Divine love, one with me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful. Thank you all for being here today. It was very special.
Whenever you shine your light on me, open up my eyes so I can see. When I look up in the darkest night, I know everything's gonna be alright. In deep confusion, in great despair, when I reach out for you, you are there. When I am lost, lift me up, turn me around, put my feet back on higher ground. I get my blessings from above. You fill my life 'cause you are love. Na 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 ba da na 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 ba da da na da 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 We are so very blessed, are we not? So we give thanks for the abundance that is represented here, that is just only a very part or portion of the allness that we are. And so we activate our faith through these emblems of our abundance, and we go forth to share it with our world. Let's bless it together. We give thanks for the ever-increasing, unceasing flow of absolute good in our lives now. So it is. You can bring our children in. They're here. Well, we are impressed not only with our regional YOU that was here overnight, but that you're still here. Because I know it probably was a long and very fun night. Do you want to tell us a little bit about last night? Anyone? Just the parts that you can. You want to share? Everyone's looking at you.
It was really fun. We danced, of course. Ate some food. I'm bleeding. We played card games. Stayed up late dancing. Anyone else?
Do you want to say anything?
For our little ones, we talked about Christmas and faith and what it was like to be in the Christmas spirit every single moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yay! And you guys want to share what chapters you are all from? Or who's here? Yeah, what chapters?
Maybe Eva can tell, or Faith. Yeah, no. Can you tell us, Faith? I'm sorry. No. You know him?
Spiritual Life Center. Marin is here.
I'm from 5 cities.
Vacaville.
And Walnut Creek.
Fresno. And we have some old YO youth that came back that are 19 and 20, so we want to welcome those back here. And grateful that you still come back to be with all of us. We are blessed.
We are always thrilled to have your energy fill our campus. It lasts and it lingers and it uplifts us for at least a week, if not longer. So thank you for being with us. Let us bless our youth and children and teachers. Together, children, youth, and teachers, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine light within you. I invite you now to take your neighbor's hand as we close out with our prayer of faith and our peace song. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. The love and the light and the faith on earth. So let your light shine and have fun.